Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games. Nah, just kidding. G'day ZiggyD here and welcome to my first ever Path of Exile Build of the Week video. As you can probably tell from that little intro there, this was inspired by Chris Wilson's awesome Build of the Week series. However, because I lack the omnipotent developer powers that he has, I have to do things a little bit differently. Each week I hold a poll asking my subscribers to choose from one of 3 builds. Then, I level that build as far as I can in 1 week. This week, my subscribers chose for me a Blood Magic Bow Duellist, which I loosely based around Nugiyen's race build from the end of closed beta. This build is all about reliability, and this is reflected in the passive tree with it having very few damage-oriented nodes. While this means it can lack damage output while leveling, it makes up for this in excellent survivability and consistency. A large health pool and a solid combination of defensive skills keeps you safe, while later in the game this same health pool combined with blood magic allows you to infinitely spam well supported and highly leveled skills. Now while it's all well and good to show off a flashy endgame build, sometimes the hard part is actually getting there. As part of this series I also make leveling report videos around level 20 and level 40 to talk about how I leveled the build up to that point. You can find links to these videos in the annotations above or in the description below. So now let's talk a bit about the skills used in this build. My single target ability is nice and simple, just Burning Arrow supported by added fire damage, weapon elemental damage, and fire penetration. If a 5 linked item were to be obtained, faster attacks would also be a nice bonus. Burning Arrow is great for both raw physical damage and fire elemental damage, which are both the main damage focuses of this build. My primary AoE ability is Split Arrow, which is supported by chain, faster attacks, and weapon elemental damage. If more survivability is needed in dangerous zones, then weapon elemental damage can be swapped out for my world leveled life gain on hit gem. The reason I chose to use Split Arrow over any other ability is that it essentially has a greater multiple projectile support gem built into it, but with only a fraction of the physical damage reduction. Its relatively high physical damage and large number of projectiles means it gains a lot of benefit from both life leech and life gain on hit. For additional AoE damage, you may sometimes see me open up an engagement with Poison Arrow. This ability is supported by the increased duration support gem. The damage over time from the Poison Cloud adds a lot of overall DPS, and the ability also comes in handy for some boss fights. The Projectile Weakness Curse, which is also supported by increased duration, is used to give me both defensive and offensive bonuses for most larger fights. This curse has a number of interesting benefits that combine well with this build. Firstly, we have the Chance to Pierce, which combines with Poison Arrow to increase its area of effect, and with Split Arrow to increase the number of mobs each projectile hits before the chain proc occurs. Initially I thought that Pierce would harm chain in this build, but after a fair bit of testing I found that it results in an overall increase in damage, especially in very large mob packs. On top of this, the Projectile Weakness Curse provides a nice damage bonus and a chance to knock back. The knockback effect helps keep mobs away from melee range, and it also serves to keep them in the Poison Cloud effect for as long as possible. As you can see, this curse is a really nice all-round supplement to this playstyle. My final skill is Summon Skeletons, which is attached to the Spell Totem support gem. This combination, otherwise known as the Skelly Brotum, is an excellent defensive ability. Whenever I find a mob pack that may require me to kite, I can use this ability to stand my ground. It's especially effective in choke points like doorways, where the totem itself can be kept safe while the summoned skeletons keep the mobs away. Auras are pretty basic, Anger and Wrath for DPS, and Grace for added evasion. There is room for other auras in this build whenever sockets will allow, although the percentage reservation auras should be avoided. And now let's take a look at the passive skill tree. The passive build for this is where you can really see the similarities with Nugiyen's race build. I really liked how efficient his setup was and I only had to make a few minor modifications to adapt it to my playstyle. The first interesting point is that you can actually start this build with either the Duelist or the Marauder starting zones. I opted to go for the Duelist because it was my first build of the open beta and I didn't want to have to struggle for appropriate skill gems. So starting from the Duelist, we head up to the center and grab all of the life nodes in that area. We can also pick up Iron Grip here for a bit of damage bonus. From there it's a good idea to head back down and go pick up Blood Drinker and Lava Lash. The life nodes are in this area are really good as well, both being 12%. At this point in my progression I found it was safe to take Blood Magic for me, but you should always do this calculation for yourself based on how you're progressing at the time. Our next step is to head from the center down into the Marauder starting zone to grab all of the excellent health nodes in here. There's also some excellent armor passives we can pick up here later. My next step was to head up towards the Templar and grab the weapon elemental damage nodes here. I'll also probably grab body and soul for the extra armor bonus and resistances, and definitely I'll be getting these life nodes in here and the regeneration node here. This notable passive here, discipline and training, is also an excellent boost to your overall life pool. After that, depending on any accuracy modifiers on your gear and how low you're finding your chance to hit is, you can head over and grab Resolute Technique. It's only 2 points away. Critical strikes aren't really a big deal in this build, and sacrificing them for 100% chance to hit is well worth it in the later stages of the game. From there you can spend your final points on just filling out some extra life nodes up here, or looking for other damage nodes and suitable resistance nodes in other areas there. Now one little thing I want to note about this is, I've grabbed a few agility nodes in different places around the tree. Now this won't be necessary if you can get enough dexterity from your gear, and if you can do that, it's a good idea to respec out of these nodes and instead pick up more life. And now let's just briefly take a look at my gear, and I'll explain some of the things you want to focus on in your gearing. Now overall my gear is average to good. I have a pretty decent belt here, a nice prismatic ring, and a very good onyx amulet that I managed to roll. The main things you want to focus on are obviously life. I've gotten quite a lot of max life on a few of my pieces of gear here. However, one thing I'm really severely missing is armor. As you can see, this chest armor here has no armor bonus, so that's something I really want to upgrade. Fire damage and physical damage are your main output sources, though sometimes you sort of just have to settle for what you can get. My next priority in gearing is to either upgrade my chest piece or my bow for a 5-linked version if I get a chest piece with a lot more armor. Now the reason for this is that with Blood Magic you can support a lot of extra support gems on your abilities, and being able to put another support gem on Split Arrow for example is going to increase my damage a lot. And finally, flasks are pretty standard. I've got a sapping flask here for extra life leech, which I sort of use like a mana potion while I'm fighting. I'll pop that throughout the fight to keep my health up if I'm taking a bit of incoming damage as well. Other than that, I have the seething health flask here, which is good for rapid heals when I'm in danger, and also have the emergency instant heal on low life there. Other than that, I use a Quicksilver flask with 30% extra move speed for mobility and 32% increased charge recovery for extra spare mobility, and I have a granite flask for emergencies, which also has some elemental resistances on it. Pretty standard stuff overall in terms of flasks. So that's it for my first ever build of the week guide. I'd love to hear any feedback you guys have on how I can improve these guides in the comments below. Remember to subscribe if you want to vote on upcoming build of the week polls, and so that you can catch the guides and leveling reports as they come out. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.